Hi everyone, I'm Chris. Welcome to Go Man Go, where our hope is to encourage others to get out and play disc golf. Now, part of encouraging others to play is to teach them about the game. Now, I still consider myself a student of the game. Every time I get out there and play, I'm always discovering something new. Today, we're going to talk about the disc. We're going to talk about the different types, what the numbers on them mean, how they fly through the air. So, let's go ahead and get to it. Before we get talking about what the different discs do, let's look at the numbers that you usually find on front of a disc. Sometimes it can be on the back. Maybe you've seen a disc before, maybe you haven't, but if you look here, you can see there's a series of numbers. There's 4 numbers. Let's go over what each one represents. Well, the very first number, well, that's the speed. That's not how fast the disc is going to move through the air, but it kind of gives you an idea of how much strength it's going to take to get that disc to move like you want it to, or the way it should move. Now this is a 2, it's a putter, so it's a lower number. It doesn't take as much power to get it to fly the way you want it to. So the lower the number, the less power. The higher the number, like a driver, like it might be like a 11 or a 12, that means it's going to take more power to get it to fly right. If you don't have the power to make it fly right, it's really going to go turning to your left if you're a right-handed thrower. But the very first one, that is speed. The second number, well, that's glide. That's how it's going to fly through the air, not necessarily directionally like left or right, but how it moves up through the air. You know, the lower the number, the less glide it's going to have. The higher the number, the more glide it's going to have. This is a glide of 3. Kind of, I guess you'd say, in the middle of the road. Some of them get up to 5 or so. The third one, well, that's turn. And for a right-handed thrower that's throwing what we call a backhand, that's a backhand this way, that means it's going to turn to the right. Those numbers usually are about 1, 0, and then they go into the negatives. -1, -2, -3. That is telling you how far it's going to turn to the right if you're a right-handed thrower throwing what we call backhand. That's the turn it's going to go at the beginning. All right? It might go straight at first for a little bit and then go off onto the right. That's the turn. Now this is a 0. So that means this is made to go straight as it can because it's a putter. And that's what you want a putter to do. You want it to go straight. So this is a 0. Like I said, some of them get up to -1, -2, -3. So it makes it go start off to the right. Well, the final number, that right there is the fade. That means if you're a right-handed thrower, that's how, once it maybe moves to the right or goes straight, that's how it's going to fade off to the left. Now, the higher the number, the more the fade it's going to have. This is a fade of 1, so it's made not to go too much to the left because you're wanting to get it as straight as you can when you're putting. So that's what the numbers represent. Now, sometimes those numbers can fib a little bit because it depends on what type of plastic the manufacturers used. Sometimes you'll have the same disc name under a manufacturer, but it's made of different plastics. And sometimes the different plastics cause it to move different directions. You just basically have to get out and throw it, learn how the disc moves, how you throw it, what it does for you. But basically, that's the numbers. So let's go over the different types of disc. Well, there's the putter disc. That's this one here, and then we have an approach disc. Putters and approaches are very similar, kind of the same disc. It's that usually the approach you're throwing from a little bit further out. Like here we've got a speed of 2. Here we have a speed of 3. And we have a glide of 3 and a glide of 3. But we see when we get to the fade, this has a fade of 3, while this only has a fade of 1. So this is a disc that maybe I'm further from the basket, and I'm going to try to get it either into the basket or as close up to the basket as possible. So I'm using this putter approach. Now you can still putt with it, but I use it mostly for approaching the basket from a little bit further distance. So that's the putters. Then, well, there's the mid-range. This means that you're a little bit closer to the basket than you want to use a driver, but you're too far away to use maybe your approach or your putter. So you're using a mid-range. Mid-range is usually the first number, the speed is around a 4 or a 5. I don't have many mid-ranges in my bag, but this is the one that I use the most. So it has a speed of 5, a glide of 5, and a turn of -2, and then a fade of 1. So that's going to go to the right and then come back to the left a little bit if I throw it right. Well, next we have the fairway disc. So this is maybe you're at the tee pad and the basket's not as far away as you would need to use a driver, or if you're just learning how to throw disc golf, this might be the highest speed you're going to throw for a while. This is the fairway disc. Well, I have 2 of them here. One of them has a speed of 8. This is a speed of 8, and this one has a speed of 6. Now, they take a little bit more power for this one to make it move than this one here. So usually the mid-ranges are going between a speed of 6 to 8. So that's the mid-range. Well, then we have what's called a distance driver. Now here the speeds are higher, usually starting around 8 or 9, and they go all the way up to 14. Now obviously, the more speed, the more power it's going to take to get that disc down the field. So this one here, this is a speed of 8, a speed of 9, and this is a speed of 12. So like I said, more power on the speed of 12 than on the speed of 8. And their numbers are about the same on the glide, but this is a -2 turn and then a 2 fade. So this one I can throw a little bit more straighter than this one because this one's a -1, 2. Well, I take that back. Actually, they're kind of both a little bit more straighter, but it just gives you an idea that this is a -2, so it's not going to go quite as much to the right, and then the 2 is going to give more fade than this one coming back. That's if I throw it right. So there we go. We have the different types of discs. We explained the different numbers. You know, part of enjoying disc golf or getting into disc golf to really get a lot of fun out of it is understanding what the discs do, what the speeds mean, and what the different types of discs there are. So there we have the different discs and we have the different speeds. Well, one thing I encourage you to do is to get a hold of some discs and get out there and throw them, because that's really how you're going to see what they do for you and what disc you like over the other disc. So I mentioned in my last episode a little bit about where you can find discs. You know, you can go to Walmart or Target or Meijer to find discs. You can go to Play It Again Sports if you happen to have one of those in your town. That's a great place usually to get used discs that you can buy a lot cheaper, because a disc can be anywhere between $12 to $24 new, or used you can maybe be able to get it for $6 to $10 a piece. So Play It Again Sports is great. You also probably have a disc store if you're in a decent sized town. There's probably a disc golf store. You can go there. They probably have used and new as well, and they can also educate you a little bit more on the disc if you have a question. Well, I hope you learned something new about disc golf today that encourages you to get out, because that's really how you're going to learn, is to get out and throw these discs. See how they fly, see how they move for you. So that's the main thing, is get out and to throw. Now the next episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to throw. All right, we're going to talk about the grip on the disc, how you bring your arm back, or which way is a backhand, which way you throw a forehand, and we'll also talk about your body position a little bit. But for now, I want to encourage you to get out and throw.